We're going to talk, you and me, kids. We're going to have a rap session. Get down with the kids of the rap session. What came across my my social media today that got my britches in a bunch, so to speak, that knotted my nuts was this. This is from a wonderful reporting outlet. It's 404 Media, independent tech reporting, and other reporting. This is an article about what is the new content churn to get attention and likes and follows on TikTok and the Instagrams. Part of why I hate those freaking platforms so much. It's AI Slop, which I'm only playing a bit of it right here just to demonstrate what I'm talking about.
Dude, you made it back. How's 2025? I heard no one talks face-to-face anymore, and everything's lived through something called social media. What the hell is Instagram? Dude, it's 1985 and the release of the film The Goonies.
Done. That's as much of that I can take. 404 Media does a wonderful article about this. Their take on it is important because it's about how fascism and right-leaning stuff is about playing upon nostalgia for an era that didn't actually exist, rejecting modernity and all that crap. And it's a very good article, and you should definitely read it. It's a different little pulse of a vein in my forehead. I was there. And if you were not there, or you were there, and you're very misty-eyed about the 80s, you are wrong. Just to lay this out, in case some of you have forgotten, in case some of you were not, in fact, there. Number one, paying bills. Do you know what it was like paying bills in the 80s? You had two options. You could mail money, which you weren't supposed to do, or you could mail like a check or a cashier's check, or you had to go to the place on your own 2 feet to pay your bill. That was it. While we're on the subject of keeping track of stuff, pens, paper, pencils, typewriters. That was it. It was so obnoxious. All of the time wasted just having to write crap down. And you remember the carbon paper? You might not have even seen carbon paper. It's a sheet of black carbon you put between the paper so you can make copies at the same damn time. Cheap as crap. That's not even getting how much time they wasted teaching us cursive. We could have learned a foreign frickin' language in elementary school, but they wasted that time on teaching us cursive. Pollution was horrible. You don't even know. You think, oh, it's so polluted. You do not know. It was a different level back then, okay? You look back at old photos of the 80s and you're like, oh, everything's all tinted yellow. No, that was the pollution. I live here in Charleston, South Carolina, and I remember days when the paper mill was cranked up. You would go outside and the world would literally smell like night. That is not an exaggeration. It literally stunk of dung, leaded gasoline, paint and pipes everywhere. Why? And smoking. Every restaurant had a smoking and a non-smoking section, and it didn't freaking matter where you were in the restaurant because you were getting smoke. They had smoking sections on the planes, which was really funny because you're in a steel tube smoking anyway. Hospitals! You could smoke in hospitals! You could smoke in the McDonald's. You go back and look. These are like little artifacts of an antique age. They had their own ashtrays, stylized with their own logos and stuff. People collect that crap. Or the culture back then, which was awful. For one thing, television. If you wanted to watch something, anything, you had better damn well be there at the time it was going to happen. Because if you weren't, you would either have to wait for months for something called a rerun, or maybe you missed that too. You wouldn't get to see the damn thing again for years, if ever, and you'd never know. Oh, what about VCRs? Oh, that was a late 80s thing, all right? The early 80s, the cheapest Betamax you could get in 1982 was $600. That's $2,000 in 2025 money. That's taking into account inflation. And you know what? The timer to program the VCR was sold separately. That was another $200. The things to watch then, some of it wasn't so bad. I mean, you look back, there's some misty watercolor memories for like the Blues Brothers and stuff. But if you want to know where the culture really was, man, try to sit through Revenge of the Nerds without vomiting. I'm not saying, oh, it's a bad movie. I'm saying if you have never experienced Revenge of the Nerds, you will have a very visceral reaction to it here in 2025. There was a running gag in Police Academy, which I did not get as a kid, but as an adult, I was like, oh, and it was where Mahoney and the gang kept tricking the lieutenant into going to a gay bar. And once they got in the gay bar, they all panicked. It was like, oh God. And even in the stuff that was kind of intended for us. You ever seen Short Circuit? Oh boy. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Look, everyone who was not a white dude, cisgender, straight, was a punchline. Like, well, sometimes they're like, it's cool to have you around, but you always were he was lurking. That crap was lurking. The Saturday morning cartoons, you're all like, oh yeah, they were so great. No, they were all commercials, kid. They was all trying to sell you something. They made that joke about in the Christmas Story about drink your Ovaltine. You lived through that and you don't even know it. Music? Well, I mean, if you were lucky, you had a cool radio station. You got one cool radio station. Or if you were lucky, you had one or two cool record stores in town. If you didn't, the only music you were exposed to was Billboard. Pop music, top 100. Sometimes, I mean, country had their own stations, contemporary had their own stations, but anything really outside of that, you had to be in a special place to hear that. In most places, it was all this homogenized. It was awful, awful. And speaking of also a technology thing, you're going to hate this, but I'm right. And you know I'm right. All we had access to as a storage media were overpriced cassettes and vinyl records. And let me tell you, folks, they sound like...
What's that coming to go?
No. They sound like...
Tootsie Fruitsie.
Give me digital lossless any day. From the original masters, preferably. And they were all overpriced. I mean, like, one album would cost you $20 in dollars back that was like $60 for one album. And you only wanted maybe 2 songs off the damn thing. Let's talk about your social group. If you wanted to be friends with people, you were limited, most of us, unless you were incredibly lucky, to a 30-mile radius for your friendship at best. Okay? That was your social, that was the best you were ever gonna do. Because travel was a pain in the butt. It was expensive to arrange. There was no GPS. If you wanted to keep in touch with anyone, you could write a damn letter. That was it. Long distance existed, but here, I'm about to blow your mind. You had to pay per minute to talk to anybody out of your area code. You know those first 3 numbers of your phone number if you're in the US? That's your area code. And if you talk to anybody, called anybody outside that area code, it costs you money per minute. You could go bankrupt on that crap. So trying to keep in touch with people, really difficult. And that's another reason why a lot of complete are very angry about the modern world, because back then they were included in social groups a lot more because we had no other choice. They were there. That was it. We had just a limited number of people, and we all just sort of like, well, he's here. I mean, what are you going to do? He lives here. I guess we're going to have to. Nope. Now we can just say, screw you. Goodbye. The whole idea of blocking people makes them very angry. Speaking of phones, trying to keep track of anybody, I'm going to say a phrase. If you lived in the 80s, that is going to take you back. You are going to time travel. Okay? Are you ready?
Mom, I'm on the phone!
phone! Mom, get off! I'm on the phone! That's nice, didn't it? And all of you who are like, oh, the Atari and Nintendo, they sucked. Nah, they sucked butt. Oh, but the Nintendo, no, the Nintendo sucked too. The games were hella expensive. 40, 50 bucks for a game. And if you got a bad game, too bad. That was your only game for like 3 months. You got LJN X-Men? Too bad. That's the only game you got. Suck it. Maybe you got Silver Surfer too. Ha ha! There is a kid I hated if you were in the 80s. You hated him too. You remember the encyclopedia kid in a commercial? Hated that kid. And you know why? All of you today is like, oh, I can't write a paper. I need AI. I can't write a paper. I can't write. Mother, you have the entire world's knowledge base literally in your pocket. You know what we had? We had the library and we had the encyclopedia. I had to write all that crap by hand. Make no mistake, Trump is the worst president in U.S. history, at least in living memory, possibly U.S. history. Jackson's close. Don't get me wrong, Jackson's close. Reagan? This is a man who dismantled society in real time and bribed the population with tax cuts to allow him to do it. It was corrupt. You don't remember that Iran-Contra crap, huh? I do not recall Ollie North. He was bigoted. He was demented. He was a blight on the planet. So either you weren't there or your memory is starting to go. Because for all that we have it worse in some ways, we have it better in so many good ones. Cancer treatments. We have a no cure for AIDS. We have energy efficiency. We have no hole in the ozone layer. Do you remember that crap? Because it existed. You don't miss the 80s. All right? You don't. What you miss is being young and protected and lacking responsibilities. You miss the things you connected to in your formative years when you were maturing. All right? And guess what? They still exist. If you really want to go play that Pac-Man Atari 2600, ain't nobody stopping you. God knows why. The reason you hate today, even though we have real advances that made life better, is entirely because of the people running the world and what has been done to the world. Know that all the good things we have happened in spite of them. You want better things? Eat the rich, kid. No, really, the Nintendo sucked. It sucked.